Previously on the Adventure Zone, Tony Effect.
To give you some information and lead you to the right path, which is Flip Summer Bash.
I guess I should pay him a visit, because he is the world's most evil wizard.
I have a way to make it up to you all. I call it the hammer. Cut Flip directly in half.
Whoa!
And he screams as he falls into a heap. I'm sorry, I don't accept being so small. A large beam of glitched light hits the beachfront property. You open your eyes and you are surrounded by intense heat. And you look up and you see this nameless demon who you've seen countless times.
Well, Cram, you've done it again. You've died.
I reach towards all my memories, plink them into his hand.
The beam finally hits this realm and it smashes through his head.
Alright, so let us begin this. And Justin, I know we need to go over our credentials first. So, after
me?
you...
Oh, after me.
After
fine.
you. The DM always needs to start the entire session off.
I'm Justin, the DM, and I invented Morse code.
And I, the player, am William. And I define the word definition. But alright, Justin, do as you always do, and do as the best you can do, because you always do a great job. Paint me that mental image.
Hey. So you've just watched your newest friend, Morpheus,
Oh, yeah.
fly into the distance in the clutches of a giant bird, a giant beautiful bird. And behind you, you see the ruins of the summer party. You'd still see like the stage and the pretty destroyed house, but you see no one there. You don't see Guru. You don't see Sean Buscemi's trapped under web body. You just see empty, broken mansion and a lot of glitched out properties of this beachfront property. And you turn back to Frolic, who is looking at you and has just said that you need to kill Stevie Young. She says to you, well, looks like your friend's dead. You weren't close to him, were you?
Nah, not quite.
Josh is going to shed a tear.
But internally, I feel a little bit lost. Just a small bit of me has flown away with the bird as I had a potential new friend. Oh, I look at Frolic, and as I'm looking at her, I'm inscribing my symbol into the little wand that I snagged from that wizard last session. Yeah. And I ask her, so, do you have any information about this? Fuck, I'm forgetting
Stevie.
the name. About Stevie
Your
Young.
other PC character.
I just woke up from a nap. My brain is still turning on. But yes, do you have any more information about this Stevie Young? As I latch the wand as a new trinket on my chest plate.
She says, yeah, I know the place where you're going to have to run into him. It's called Crackle Keep.
Alright,
It's
to
not...
Crackle Keep then.
Yeah, you could head there right away. I have some stuff to do. Hopefully we cross paths again, but I have to get my shit together. But here,
Don't we all?
She hands you a crude map of the country, which, we talked about last session.
Yeah, it's the same map that I saw before. No problem.
And she says, it's right there. I managed to make this map in the years that I've been trapped in that apocalypse place. So, I'll see you there.
All right.
She starts walking away.
It's a date. And I start walking away as well.
And as she's walking away, she turns around and is walking backward. And she's like, by the way, it's been a couple days since it happened. I don't know if it's relevant to you, but I couldn't exactly pinpoint the exact day before all this shit happened because of all of that shitty scientists' shitty equipment. So,
Wait, are you referring to the hammer going off or what?
yes.
Okay, good to know.
So, on the map, you notice that you're going to have to go through a little bit of the Garbage Lands and Ruined Kingdom, which, as far as you're concerned, you have no attachment to.
So I already latched my trinket on.
Yep.
I do a little tally, make sure I have all of them. Nothing fell off. Hoist my sack over my shoulder, and I start hiking.
So as you're hiking, you're doing your healing and you're resting, assessing the damage that Aldavius, the wizard, did on you with all his scorching rays. And you notice a hole in the side of your hull. And you're like poking around at it, thinking of how to patch it up. And all of a sudden, you feel something rattling in there.
Oh? Oh, what could this be? I reach in and I kind of fit my fingers in and try to find what's rattling.
You manage to pinch your fingers around it, and you pull it out. And you can see it is a trinket with your emblem on it.
And I look at this, and I try to recall, well, what is it, first of all?
It's just like a little hunk of metal. It looks like it was carved off of something, like, not intricately carved off of something, but it looked like it was like a chunk was taken off.
Fair. And I try to recall what it is, but knowing I have no memory of what it's from. So I take another clasp and I fasten it to my armor.
As soon as you fasten it to your armor, you freeze as all the memories actually start rushing back to you. You lose feeling in your legs as it's all too much to comprehend, and you fall to the ground, staring up at the shattered sky as you start to remember. Alright, we should mention, we never really talked about the mechanics of these trinkets and your memories. I don't think we've actually laid it out.
We never did?
No, we didn't.
Alright. So Cranberry, due to living for such a long time, the reason he has lived for such a duration is because he made a deal with a demon. Due to the agreement he made, he has no ability to remember anything. The only reason he's able to remember stuff is by fastening mementos to himself. Otherwise, any duration of time, events, friends are lost in the wind.
They're all lost at the same exact time. Like, no matter how much he accrues the trinkets, this demon takes them whenever he dies. And thus, resetting him to level 1, quote, quote, every time he dies. This demon takes all of those trinkets, and thus his memories.
And then takes Cranberry and plops him right back on in the world.
100 years
who
later.
knows? 100 years? He never knows. It's just at some point that nothing is familiar to him.
Yeah. Any kind of training that he would have learned.
Is just lost in the wind.
Yes. Except for a single piece, which was given to him by his mentor.
Which is a 4-leaf clover, frozen in time in a ice capsule. And that is the deal that he made, is to make sure the memory of his trainer, the person who raised him and taught him everything he knew, would be remembered for all of time. Cranberry is the memory and the forever.
This mentor, who is named Martin Barrett, you know that he's been a little resentful of the name because it's given to him by birth under the king. The king names everyone in his clan because they're born to serve under him as his royal guard, as his best guard. But this day that you remember, your mentor, Martin, you guys are sparring in the woods, and he seems a little glum. And you guys stop, you guys are chilling out, you're at full health. You're exactly the level that you are now, which is convenient.
Yes.
And you're chilling out.
Hey, Barrett, what games? Oh, wait, would this be like this would be totally a younger Cranberry, or how old would you say Cranberry would be? Because this is before he got turned into a warforged. This is when he was still, I would say, probably human.
You're human at one point?
Yeah. I mean, how else would he have been turned into living forever? He was stuffed into a stone body made of iron and wood. So that he would last forever.
I didn't really think about this, but that is true. It doesn't really affect anything that I've planned, but that is interesting.
So, just as a little visual flavor, this is human cranberry.
Yes. So you said to him, what gives? And you guys are sitting on a log, and he says, Cram, I don't know if you know about this, but the Knoll army is advancing, and I'm not sure it'll turn out. So I just wanted to say to you that I'm proud of your progress.
Well, surely they're not going to send you. You're one of the finest royal guards. You're basically the personal bodyguard of our leader. Surely they won't send you to the front line.
And that's why I'm worried. I'm all they have left, basically. We're down by so many troops, and I lost the last of my clan the other day, my uncle. He was killed.
Yeah, I lay my training weapon down, and I sit down next to him. And I think I would sit there in shock and silence. And because I feel like this would be the first time Cranberry really starts to grasp what war is, what loss is, and he sees the sadness in his mentor's eyes and wishes that he could do something but can't. And it's a feeling unlike any else that Cranberry would feel at this moment. So he's right now just trying to center himself and understand what's the proper response.
As you try to make any kind of human connection with him, you start to hear marching, and it's coming quick. And both of you leap to your feet. You grab your nearby weapon, whatever it may be, and into the tree line appear 6 gnolls. And one of them steps ahead, a lady gnoll, who says, King's order. Report to the King's chamber for deregulation. And Barrett looks at you and looks at the gnolls, and he says, I don't take orders from any damn gnolls. And he holds out his hand, and a giant polearm appears in it, with a glowing purple aura around it.
And this is where I would also wield my polearm. I drop the training sword on the ground because, we just practice amongst every weapon, but I brandish my normal weapon.
Okay. And you and him start stepping forward as the gnoll lady says, we were told there might be some, and he swings at her with all of his might and just blows her head clean off. And the rest of the gnolls start to advance. 3 of them come at him and 2 come at you.
I take a swing at one of them then.
Okay.
19.
Yeah.
Awesome. 9 damage to the first. Bonus attack swing. 21.
Yep.
And that's 12 damage.
Alright. You bash one in the nose. Wait, did you hit them both? Or the same one twice?
Same one twice, and I forgot I actually have a third attack because I'm level 6.
Alright.
Oh, 20. 10 damage.
Alright. You smack the first one in the nose, and he stumbles back. You bring the back end to it, into his gut, and he falls backwards. And you spin around and smack the other guy in the neck, and he falls down as well, as you see Barrett just sort of laying them flat, like he bashes one's head in, blood comes squirting out. He spins it around, does the polearm maneuver, which looks so similar to yours, and you hear ribs break. And the last one starts to retreat, and he chases him down, and he brings his polearm down on his back and just keeps bashing him into the ground, screaming. And then he finally calms down, straightens up, and he looks at you in the eyes with blood splattered onto him. And he says, we need to confront the king. Let's go, Krim.
Of course. So I follow him.
Alright.
I'm a little confused. Why did the gnolls ask us? Aren't we fighting the gnolls?
Yes.
So why did a group of why did a group of gnolls ask us to go see this king?
There's been some talk about surrender. If we are actually surrendering, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, seeing how we put those guys 6 feet under, I don't know what we would do either.
But those are just grunts. The king thought I would come peacefully because of my loyalty to him, but I'm the last of my clan, and he's thinking about surrender. After we've been fighting for so long, my siblings, my parents, my daughters died for this.
And I think as Cranberry hears this, he just kind of slumps his head forwards and looks down and tries to remember any family he could have had or should have had. This bond that his mentor speaks of, but can only compare it to his bond with his mentor. And I think that brings a tear to Cransberry's eyes.
As that happens, you feel a big hand on your shoulder, and he looks at you and says, "You're the only one I could trust, Cram. You're the only remaining person that I can trust."
I just don't know how the king can surrender just like that. So many people lay down their lives, and yet he makes this decision for us.
As you go over the crest of the hill into an area in which you can see the village outside of the kingdom, you can see that there's many buildings on fire, and you can see the Gnoll army, their colors within the village, met by no resistance by the kingdom's soldiers. And he says, "This isn't going to turn out well." And he looks at you and says, "You trust me, right?"
More than anyone else.
So he doesn't respond to that in any verbal way, but he starts drawing a circle around you in the dirt. He grabs a nearby stick and starts drawing runes nearby. He cuts himself and lets the blood flow onto the runes. And he takes out a hammer and pick from his pack. And he comes up to you and he says, "This is gonna hurt." And he takes a chunk out of you.
What?
You're gonna take a little bit of damage for this.
I feel like it's a lot of damage.
5 damage.
Come on, Justin. You took a chunk out of me. You think it'd only be 5
Well,
damage?
no, a chunk. Yeah, you're right. Honestly, I had it with Robot Cram in mind.
Okay, I bet you did.
I'll add a D10.
Yeah.
Well, it was a 2.
Add another D10.
Another D10. It was another 2.
Add another D10.
A 4. We did it.
We
13
got there. 13 damage. Okay.
You take
that's
13 damage.
That's a little. You know what? I'm going to make that just 15 damage. There we go. Let's just say 15 damage. I feel like that's appropriate amount because this is out of 70 health, so he's a chunky boy.
So you're bleeding a bit, but weirdly enough, he ignores your wound. Usually he would be a little more like clean yourself up or something like that, but he walks away and he seems extremely busy and he's holding it in his hand and walking around silently muttering to himself, and he holds it back out to you, and it is now made of metal and it has this little rune on it. He says, "I'm going to need you to swallow that."
I look at it with a little bit of concern. I take a deep breath in and I sigh, and I, without question, but a little hesitation, I swallow it.
Okay, roll a con save.
This is a rough time. A rough time and a half. That is 13.
You take 1 throat damage.
Oof. All right.
So, as this is finished, he places a hand on your forehead, is whispering silent prayers to some otherworldly patron that you know vague hints about. He pulls out a locket and he does a similar prayer, and you see that same emblem on it, same as the chunk. And he says, "When the truth comes out, all will come together. One who is not made of flesh has the blessing of not rotting, and my time on this earth is limited by my body. But you're not chained by mortality. Well, Not yet, anyway. You can restore the kingdom in Barrett's name.
I look at him with a puzzled look on my face, and I won't question it. I look at him. So what do we plan to do now?
Let's go find the king. And he steps forward towards the city.
I follow him with the best of my strength. I feel like I fall behind a little bit, clutching my side. I do keep pondering him mentioning mortality, on how I am not bound by it. But before I make any progress or even have any sort of conclusion, I'm sure we find ourselves in front of the king.
No. You have to make it through the village, the surrounding village first.
So we find ourselves in front of the village.
Yes, and on the outskirts, you guys start to hear, Knoll language, the cackles of them, some screams of villagers. He motions for you to get close in the shadows, and he says, "As much as it pains me, we have to stick to the shadows. The Knolls will send their elite. We might not make it out in one piece."
I can't believe the king lets our city fall to such tatters and ruin.
He nods and kind of looks a little glum, and he continues around the corner in the shadows. And eventually, you're going through, village neighborhoods, jumping fences, hiding under trees and bushes, and eventually you get to this intersection within the city where there is a Knoll that's dressed differently from all the soldier Knolls, who's sitting on top a pile of villager corpses. And you see like a soldier Knoll come up to it and hand it like a severed leg. And this different colored Knoll takes it, sniffs it, shakes its head, and throws the severed leg behind them. And just cackles as the soldier Knoll kind of runs away, holding their head as if this Knoll's going to throw something at it. And Barrett looks at you and says, "What do you think?"
Cranberry just looks in disgust. Like, if there was any moment he felt like there was nothing left, it would be now. And just grabs his polearm and with white knuckles is just ready. I think we should fuck him up.
It's your call.
Before I take a running charge, I hold myself back and I survey the scene. How many Knolls are there?
You see there's one that's kind of busy heating a corpse nearby. It looks like it's near the pile of corpses in some sort of storefront, a little bit in the shadows, like you almost didn't notice them. There's another one who is just sort of full belly sleeping nearby. That's probably the closest one to you. It is like leaning against a window for a shop. There's someone hiding in like a wagon, and it's going like, come here, as the villager screams and tries to bat that Knoll away.
I think Cranberry loosens his grip, and he starts to say, "It's not worth killing them. The damage is already done," until he sees that person cowering. And at that point, he tenses right back up and realizes that there's still one person, someone worth saving. And he looks at his mentor. As long as there's still someone standing and alive, I will fight and die by this banner and not be a coward like our king. And at that moment, he just sprints towards this one Knoll, trying to get this person, and clobbers them over the head as hard as he can.
Roll advantage.
I think he just, in a blind rage, he just misses.
Oh my god, what'd you do? What'd you do?
Does an 11 hit?
Oh no.
And in this moment of anger and fury, he loses all composure. Like, he sprints, his legs are wide, he doesn't stable himself, and he just swings like an informal swing, just complete diagonal swiping, and I feel like hits like the wheel of the wagon, and just this echoing clack rings out, to all the other gnolls as all their heads turns towards Cranberry with this staff 6 inches away from this other gnoll.
You hear the gnoll in the center on top of the pile of corpses say, "That's the one I want, that one right there." And this gnoll wearing like really fancy clothes, jewels studded, stands up and dances a little bit, like jumps with glee and claps. As Martin also comes from the shadows, and as you missed, he just like wide-eyed, and the sleeping one starts to sit up. But the one next to you is like, "You heard the man," and comes at you.
In the response, I would like to use my second attack for my attack action.
Yeah.
Swing the back around and attempt for a follow-up. Okay, there we go. 17.
Yeah.
9 damage.
Okay. You clock him. He looks like he stumbles a bit, but he keeps his posture.
And then the follow-up attack for the butt end. That's a 20 to hit. 14 damage for the pommel strike. For the signature move. The
Alright.
boosh.
You get him in the throat. He goes through the glass pane nearby into the shop, and he stops moving.
I just see this as like, I hit the wood, it stops mid-motion. I follow up with an uppercut. He gets punted up into the air, and then I jab him in midair, launching him through like a second floor window. Just gone.
And this moment, the sleepy guy starts to get up, and Martin just bashes him back into the ground. Just with one blow, just bashes him. That just leaves the eating gnoll and the gnoll on top of the corpses, in which the fancy gnoll says, "My name's Ruby, nice to meet you. And, you're Royal Guard, yes? Royal Guard? Looks like you are Royal Guard. Me too." And you just hear, like, an explosion of glass, and next to Martin, the window panes explode and all the shards come at him, and he screams and holds his face as the gnoll nearby comes at you with his spear. And he tries to jab you. And he got a 22.
He hits, but as a reaction for him coming close to me, I get to make an attack.
That's true.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that feature of the feat. Love Pull Arm Master. That's a 15 base. That's a hit.
Yes.
Ooh, that's some good damage. 14 damage.
All right. So as this spear does 7 damage, you bash him, and he falls to the ground. He just sort of tumbles there into the street gutter, and he lays dead. You
know what? Since if it would kill him before he got to attack, because it was on his movement, but I kind of like the visual of him thrusting spear at me, and then in a response, I just smack him. So
yeah. Okay,
so I'll settle for it's about the same range.
No, I want to follow the rules.
No, I like the story, the narrative.
Okay.
I like the story. I like the idea there.
You guys take a chunk out of each other at the same time, pretty much. Mm-hmm. But yours does more damage, obviously.
Yeah.
And he's down, which just leaves the fancy one.
You come into our town, you kill our people. They just follow the words of a forsaken king. I'll make it so you wish you never stepped foot in these lands. And I just run up to him, and I just want to peg him right in the face. So that's 20 to hit.
Okay, yeah.
And that's 9 damage to the face.
Okay. Ruby says, "Ah, my moneymaker. What else do you do?"
And then the
Is this interrupted?
Then the follow-up 2 attacks. That's like a 26 to hit.
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of a hit. 12 damage.
Okay.
And the
so total, what was that? 9, 12, 21.
21 damage. And the pommel strike misses. And I think I'm going to action surge because I'm pissed off. So here comes another 2 attacks at him. 23 to hit. And another 13 damage. And then a 17 to hit. Does that hit?
Yeah.
11 damage.
Okay.
So I just fucked him
Beat the
up.
shit out of him.
Yeah.
And with all these bruises on Ruby, Ruby goes, I didn't think that you'd be this powerful, and holds out both of his hands and make a wisdom save.
Oof. That's +3. 12.
You step back, turn around, and sprint at Martin as he sprints at you, and make an attack on him. And he'll make an attack on you.
12.
12. Okay. You bash up against his hardened muscles.
Ooh.
But they bounce off.
Nice.
He smacks into you with his polearm,
Ugh.
dealing.
What'd you get to hit?
Oh, not nat 20. Wait, it doesn't hit, right? You have a 21, right?
21.
All right. Yeah, he didn't.
Ooh.
Wait. As a human?
Oh no. Oh no. My AC is like... What armor am I wearing? Probably studded leather. So that'd be the dex. Yeah, no, that's a hit.
Okay. 17 damage. Slams down into you. It feels like he pulled it a little. And he shakes his head. And you can actually see blood's coming down his face from where the glass hit him. And it looks like he pulled a shard directly out of his eye.
Wow.
A little earlier. And it's closed. And he goes, sorry for that. I wasn't on my best guard. He got me earlier.
That's okay.
And you hear Ruby cackling in the background as he begins to run towards the kingdom.
I'm going to use second wind and heal up a little bit. That's 14 health. That puts me back up a little bit. And I want to chase Ruby down and throw.
Okay.
And I think I'm just going to huck a hand axe at her.
I imagine that Ruby is very effeminate as well.
Yeah.
But it is a he.
Really? I feel like Ruby is a more feminine name.
The reason, I mean, you never ask these things. You never tend to ask these things, but the reason behind Ruby being Ruby's name is because he loves jewels. That's his favorite jewel.
Well, nonetheless, Ruby's going to get an axe in the back. Or maybe not. Does I assume 14? Yeah, 14?
Oof.
Oof.
No.
Ouch. And second attack. Oh no. That's a nat 1.
Did you nat 1?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Another moment of blind rage takes over.
I will use this as an opportunity to show you what Ruby can do. It goes past Ruby. Ruby holds out his hands, and it does a circle around him, and then comes back at you. But it misses. It goes way above your head.
Whew.
And you guys are running towards the kingdom, and you could hear Martin say, "Wait, is it worth it to chase? There's gnolls all around us," as he's right behind you. Make the call. Make some noise by killing him, or disappear.
Cranberry is on a full sprint, but after hearing Martin call out, his full sprint slows to a gallop, to like more of a trot, and just tired, limp legs just kind of flopping on the ground until he just slows and kneels as he realizes this was now revenge that he was chasing instead of trying to defend that one person.
And speaking of which, that one person gets out of that wagon and runs in the opposite direction. They don't acknowledge you or anything. They just run for their lives.
As I look back and see them escape, I stand up and I duck to the nearest alley to disappear.
Okay, you and Martin do so, and you continue forward towards the kingdom until you get to the kingdom walls, and the entrance to it, there is a lot of gnolls there. You could hear a lot of screaming, a lot of whooping, and from your vantage point, you can see that there's another royal guard dressed gnoll, almost like in a makeshift arena. There's little planks there. He's fighting a defenseless villager. The villager is trying to fight, like he's trying to punch the gnoll, but the gnoll has weapons, dual-wielded weapons, and is just cutting him down. And when he cuts this villager down, a bunch of gnolls from the crowd drag him in and start eating him. And then you see another person pushed in, and this royal guard Noel is hyping himself up as this villager is trying to get back into the crowd, and they're pushing him back in, and it repeats itself. And Martin says, "Oh man, I can't believe this. I can't believe this.
They're savages. All of them. Animals. Deserving to be put down like the scum that they are.
We can't do that right now. We can either stop that from happening, which seems like a very bad idea, or we could attempt to climb up over the walls."
Now, they're doing this at the front main gate, right?
Yes.
I look up above the main gate where the wall would go over it. Now, it is standard wall siege defense weaponry that they're usually cauldrons of burning oil above the gates.
There's gnolls there.
There are gnolls up there. Okay.
It seems like they're busy watching the fight, though.
Now, there's clearly way too many gnolls to fight. That'd be a
Yes.
suicide mission. There's no point on throwing our lives away. Maybe if we can find reinforcements on the inside, we can incite a rebellion and actually fight back. But for now, we have to get inside.
Good idea. He takes you under your shoulders and tosses you as far up as he can, halfway up the wall. And he's climbing up behind you. And you get to the top. Roll sneak.
It's 15.
15?
Yes.
Okay. You walk in the opposite direction of those gnolls that sit on the top. And you make your way down at a safe enough place. And you get down to the castle. You get to the main entrance, where it seems really actually empty. And you get to the main lobby of this castle, and it's really, really quiet. There's usually a lot of hustle and bustle. And roll perception.
That's not too bad. 18.
You actually hear like the cries of someone like screaming and pleading down the opposite corridor in which you would have to go to the king. You know this. You've been in this castle before.
I feel like, yes, I would check down that hallway to see if there's someone I could potentially save.
All right. You continue down that hallway, and you get to where the barracks are for the kingdom's soldiers. And you peek in. I hate to do this, but roll another sneak.
Oh, I'm hidden as hell. I get +2, but that's a 21.
Nice.
Yeah, 19
So
base.
you peek your eyeball through the door, and you can see 15 or so soldiers for the kingdom, kind of begging and pleading. A lot of them are quiet, fetal position, and there's like 30 or so gnolls, just kind of like jabbing at them, screaming, laughing.
How many soldiers?
Like 15.
15 versus 30?
And you hear Martin say, "Damn, it seems like that's all that's left of the castle's guards. Can't believe it."
They could fight them if they were armed. Surely. I look around for, like, a barrel of weapons. A convenient barrel of
They're
weapons.
all in there, and they're all being held by the gnolls.
But are they armed?
The soldiers?
Yeah.
No. The gnolls usually hold, like, spears, something gnoll-like, handcrafted, but these gnolls are holding some shiny broadswords, some new crossbows, you know.
By the time we get a few of those weapons in the soldiers' hands, we'd be chopped to bits.
This really kills me.
There's not really nothing we can do.
In due time,
I turn around and start heading down the other direction.
you start heading towards the king's chambers. The two of you, alone, walk through the huge double doors of this royal chamber, and in the distance, you see the king kneeling, bowing to a gnoll that sits in his throne. She wears a more colorful version of the outfits of the royal guard. For gnolls, they really love their color. And the king, hearing the doors open, he stands looking sad as Martin kind of pushes ahead of you. And the king kind of meets you in the middle. Martin says, "Where are Drisdell and Bentley?" And the king says, "I'm sorry, Martin. At this point, this was the most peaceful option." And you know Drisdell and Bentley are the other two royal guards, both extremely powerful, but not as powerful as Martin. They tend to think of him as a rival almost, but they are just as loyal as Martin. And Martin lowers his head, and the king says, "I know that you would never serve a gnoll, so I have a solution, actually. She could wipe your memory. You'll be the perfect tool to bring about peace between the gnolls and the kingdom." And Martin shakes his head, and the king says, "Well, Martin, it's an order." And dropping from the ceiling for this perfect moment, standing in between you, Martin, and the king and the queen, is Drisdell and Bentley. Drisdell has this long beard, brownish hair, has this really heavy armor on, and wields this huge battle axe with electricity arcing off of it. Bentley nearby has this lighter armor, but his fists are on fire. And Martin says, "There's no need for threats, but I only serve the king." And he glances at you as he fiddles with his locket. Do you have anything to say right now?
I stare at this in shock and awe, and I whisper under my breath, "He is no longer our king. He's betrayed us all."
The king kind of looks at you like a little surprised, and like he's never heard someone say that to him, say something like that to his face. And you see Martin kind of narrow his eyes and start walking towards Drisdell and Bentley. And he stops in front of them, and he starts kneeling. And the queen gets up, and she says, "I'm glad that blood didn't have to be shed." And then she starts walking forward, and everyone turns and looks at you. And they look really tense and a little bit angry. And Martin notices and says, "Wait, there's no need for my student to continue being here." He stands up and he looks at you from about 15 feet away, and he has a super serious look on his face. He has these pleading eyes, and he says, "He's not strong enough to join the guard. He needs to die here, or else he'll come back later and avenge the Barrett clan when he becomes stronger." And the queen laughs, and she says, "Well then, I want you to kill him. Your first order." And everyone kind of steps back as Martin summons his polearm, and he looks at you, and he has this sad look on his face.
"Wait, you couldn't. You wouldn't. This isn't what you taught me. This isn't what we fought for all these years."
As you're saying this, he's walking towards you, and he says to you, "I can't take the risk of you." And as he says this next part, his single working eye glows purple. "Coming back later and avenging us." And he brings down his polearm on you. 17? Does 17 hit?
Yeah, it's gonna hit.
Okay.
Probably, pretty sure. I'm just going to assume yes, for story reasons.
Dealing 16 damage. What do you do in response?
Cranberry wouldn't know what to do. He gets hit with this polearm and is sent flying backwards onto his knees, and he looks up, bewildered, trying to understand what he meant by his words before about the ritual that he did, and it just doesn't make sense as they've come so far, and yet he just follows so willingly.
And as you're having these thoughts, he brings it down again. His sad face, kind of not indicative of the amount of ferocity he's putting into these blows into you. And that's a 24.
Yeah, that's a hit.
18 damage.
Oof. Yeah.
You hear like a rib crack. He's trained you well. He's trained you to take these blows really well. And Are you doing anything else, or is he?
I feel like I was on my hands and knees, and he flattened me out with a overheaded swing, and through half squinting eyes, one arm reaches out towards his feet as I look up and get one last glance at his face, seeing those glowing purple eyes. All I ask is, why?
Your last word as it comes down, and you aren't totally dead. You're definitely losing a lot of blood. The last blow hit you in the head, and you could feel it pooling around you as your eyes remain open, and he comes down to you, he meets you at eye level, and he cradles your head. You see him open his left hand, in which he had the polearm in, and which the locket had been all along, and he puts it on your chest, and he leaves it there, as the last thing you see is him putting demonic energy into this locket, and tears coming to your mentor's eyes as you wake up in a really broiling hot place. You can see the kingdom below you, very, very, very far below you. You can recognize it. And through the flames around you, you see a stories tall demon. And he gives you this weird look, like he looks you up and down. He says,
You don't look like much. You're the one the Barrett clan entrusts with this? Alright. I'm just a nameless, forgotten demon, only worshipped by the Barrett clan, and I eat memories. My most loyal subject needed a favor, my only remaining subject, and it also benefits me, gives me food. So, I'll be taking all of your memories now.
What?
Your memories are all temporary. The only sanity that will keep you tethered to reality is keeping little trinkets. Martin was really into those.
do you have anything to say?
No, not really. I think I'm just strucken back in awe, trying to absorb what's happening, listening to this demon explain all this very suddenly.
Yeah. So he just stares at you for a really long time as you just stare at him. And he says,
Well, good luck. I'll be looking forward to eating your memories. Have fun with your new body.
Wait, what?
and he pushes you. And the next thing you know is you're falling. You hit the ground, and you stand up, dust yourself. Wait, you reach down to dust yourself off, and you see you have metallic appendages. Would you think it would surprise you, since you don't really remember much?
Well, the only thing that I would have as a memory would be the tether or the bond that my mentor gave to me, since he's the reason I went to this demon. That's the one commodity that I have, is trinket from him, which is the clover in ice.
In which you find hanging from the hull on your body.
And I look in shock, because I remember the day that I collected that clover, and I remember I was skin and bone. I was human.
As you're processing these things, you look up and you find yourself near a village. It's not on fire or anything. You tell that maybe at one point it might have looked nice, but it's kind of gone to shit. And you're just staring at it from afar, and you see coming out from one of the houses is a gnoll just taking out the trash, and it notices you and is kind of like staring you down, and calls out to another gnoll nearby, and they both walk to the edge of the city, almost curious, but they're giving you like a really funny, like, what are you doing here kind of look, almost angry.
Question. During the time of when my mentor gave me that clover, were we at war at the time?
Oh, no, you know nothing about
Gnolls.
like the Gnoll War. You know of your mentor.
In that case, I would stand up, kind of try to dust myself off to the best I can, because I'm not familiar with this body, and I go up to them and like, Where am I?
As you're going up to them, you see they're pulling out daggers. At this point, you're level 1.
So I start walking backwards, like, hey, I'm not trying to get into any trouble here. I just don't know where I am. I mean, I'll leave. I start backing up slowly.
All right, they're really coming up on you.
And at that point, I turn and run. Cranberry doesn't know where he is, doesn't know really who he is. He knows who he is, but like what his new form is, and he needs to get out of there. So he runs, he flees.
So we see Cranberry running from this village, this kingdom from which he once called home, and you see the gnolls stop and kind of laugh to themselves as he runs through the forest and return to their kingdom, this new gnoll kingdom, this ruined kingdom in which Cram aimlessly, with no memories, makes a new life for himself.
And if you like, we zoom back to the world in present as this entire flashback happens, and we see the chain link clasp shut as Cranberry is fastening this trinket that he pulled out of himself to his armor, and he falls to his knees.
Centuries ago, we see Cranberry in the arms of Martin of the Barrett clan. The Warforged dissolves quickly, leaving no trace. The particles fly upward in a purple mist. Martin rights himself. He says, "Let's get this over with. I'd like to take this needless emotion away." The king does not address this. Instead, he puts a hand on Martin's shoulder. "You've seen what they've been doing to the neighboring villages. As a king, you have to think of your kingdom's well-being. My most trusted loyal guards, you will now obey the orders of the new queen." This startles Martin. The other two shift their weight, exchange glances, and shout, "Yes, sir!" They bow to their new queen. The king begins to walk away nervously. He says, "So our deal is still on, right?" And the queen nods. He walks briskly to the exit, turning briefly before closing the door. He says, "Long live the kingdom!" and shuts the door. Immediately, the queen says, "Kill him." The amount of time that Trisdell and Bentley hesitate is not indicative of years of loyalty and service to their king. They sprint out the door. Shortly after, they hear his screams, which are cut short. The queen approaches Martin, who tenses up but is restrained. She says, "I have plans for them, but you're special. I'm going to be reigning for a long time, and you're going to help." Wow, what a backstory. Hi, I'm Justin, the DM, inventor of nothing. And I just wanted to mention that we have a Discord. The link is in the description. We have a YouTube that we might be doing something with in the future if you want to subscribe to that. And we have a Twitter, which follow it and tell us what great jobs we're doing, because I love that dopamine hit. And I share it with the other boys, and sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't. But I always look at it and I smile. My cheeks get rosy. So, thank you for listening. It means a lot. Thank you. Goodbye.